I'm Heather Valgas at NAB, and I'm with Rick Calvert, who is the founder of NMX, and we are in the NMX Lounge after all. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Heather.
So tell us about NMX. I know it used to be Blog World, now it's become NMX. What's the story behind it?
So it was originally called Blog World and New Media Expo, and
Okay.
I was actually just talking about this off camera. I started a blog about politics just for fun. It took off. I got a lot of viewers, an audience for my blog. Then I got somebody sent me an email, said, "What's it cost to advertise on your blog?" And I thought, well, I need to go to the blog.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. So I thought I need to go to the blogging trade show because my day job is running trade shows.
Okay.
So I looked for one and it didn't exist. And a couple of things had started right then. Blog Her had just started that year. A thing called the Mill Blog Conference for military bloggers had started that year. A thing called God Blog Con had started that year for religious bloggers. And I thought, okay, these are not industry events. These are all vertical events, like we are here at NAB, right? It's anybody who's in radio or television here at NAB. So I wanted something like that for new media. And when I started doing the research, I realized it's not just blogging, it's also podcasting, it's web TV, it's all of social media stuff, right? And by the way, Twitter didn't exist then, right? And
wow, okay.
Yeah, MySpace was the big social network.
I remember the MySpace days.
Right, and so that was in 2006, and so I knew I could run the show because I run trade shows. I knew I wanted to go to the show. It was really interesting to me, but I didn't know if anybody else would go. So I asked some of my blogger friends, hey, would you go to this show? And they all said yes. I contacted somebody named Robert Scoble, you guys may have heard of.
I know Robert.
Yeah, I didn't know him. I'd never heard of Robert Scoble before then, but I found out he's kind of a big deal on the internet. And so I contacted him. I said, hey, would you go to this show, called Blog World if I did it? He said, yeah, it sounds like fun. And he told me a couple of people had actually tried to do something like that before, but it had only been technology bloggers. They'd not tried to do what I wanted to do, which was all bloggers, all podcasters. So we started it in 2006. We had our first show in 2007. That's the year Twitter debuted.
Okay.
And it was called Blog World and New Media Expo, so it can include all of those things from the beginning. We changed the name in 2011 from Blog World and New Media Expo to just New Media Expo, and then the initials are NMX, because podcasting and web TV became a much bigger part of the show. And the name Blog World was kind of making people have a false impression of what it really was. So we dropped the Blog World off the front, and it's getting bigger and better every year. Now we do the Podcast Awards at New Media Expo. We do the Web TV Awards at New Media Expo. We have bloggers and podcasters, web TV people, corporations. Half the Fortune 500 has been to New Media Expo. People come from all over the world to the show.
Okay, so for the entrepreneur out there, the solopreneur, the small business owner, why should they add new media elements to their business?
So here's the really compelling thing about new media for everybody. And you might call it new media, you might call it social media, whatever, it doesn't matter. The divide between content that you might read in a magazine or watch on television or listen to on the radio and marketing is coming down.
Okay.
To where now companies are creating their own content. So Red Bull's a perfect example. What they did with Felix Baumgartner, where the guy jumped out of a spaceship basically and broke the record for the highest parachute jump in history. I mean, that's what we call content marketing.
Okay.
Right? Because every time we talked about that story, we were talking about Red Bull.
Yeah.
So if I'm a small business owner, I can do something like that, obviously not jump out of a spaceship, but I can do
maybe off the stratosphere.
Right, maybe off the stratosphere if you're here in Las Vegas. You can do something fun and interesting that would make people want to come watch it or listen to it or read it. That's not just marketing your business. They're going to come and see the interesting story, and then by association they realize, oh, this business did that. And that's going to drive traffic to your business. So that's one of the many ways that a solo entrepreneur or a small business can use new media. Another one is to network with influencers who might be in your space. So for example, if I own a bagel shop, I might want to build relationships with food bloggers in my city. So they can come and talk about how awesome my bagels are and why you might want to come here because we have free Wi-Fi and best coffee in town, blah, blah, blah. So that's another way that you can do it. Another way is if you're active on those social networks and customers maybe complain about bad service one day on Twitter or Facebook, you can go and respond to them and say, hey, we're sorry, you had a bad experience, come back in, we'll give you a coupon for a free thing or whatever. Or let's take the opposite of that. Somebody says something good about your place and you can just go say thank you. And now that relationship between you and your customer is just enhanced to a whole different level. So there's so many things as a small business you can do with new media that can help your business in a way you could never do with traditional media.
Yeah, some awesome tips there. Now, speaking of traditional media, as you mentioned, this is the NAB show, which is all about traditional media. How do you see NMX fitting in with NAB? I mean, obviously it does. We're standing here in the NMX lounge, but why that connection?
Well, first of all, there's a bunch of gear here that we could all geek out on, right? All the latest cameras, microphones, lighting, audio.
You're saying this to a girl who cobbled together probably a $200 bit of equipment here.
Well, look, you've got a great little light, you've got your camera, you got your mic, I mean, you've got a tripod.
It's all like pieces from eBay that I put together, yeah.
Well,
but that was a geeky thing to do, wasn't it?
That was a geeky thing to do, and again, this is the new media part coming into play, right? To do this in years past, you would have had to buy a $10,000 camera and a $1,000 tripod and expensive. Now you can build this, $300-400 for the whole thing. Now, this is the gear you're using today, but I'm sure there's other gear you want.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that gear is here at NAB.
Yeah.
So you can go and look, and every year it gets smaller and cheaper. So like Blackmagic has cameras for a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, the 4K ones?
Yeah, and 2.5K high definition. Red is here. All the live streaming companies are here. So if you're ever going to do live TV in any way, Livestream was in the booth earlier today. StreamStar was in the booth yesterday. Justin TV is here today, and we've used the new Tech TriCaster. You may have never heard of any of those things, but those are equipment that you would use if you want to do any type of live television or if you want to live stream to the internet. So all of those tools are here at NAB. Conversely, all of those broadcasters know they need to do new media too, right? There was a woman I met in the booth yesterday who used to be the traffic reporter for an ABC affiliate in Seattle. And she wanted to put her hashtag and her Twitter handle up on the screen while she was giving the traffic report. But she'd have to tell the cameraman would have to tell the producer would have to tell the director, and by the time they would get it up on the screen, her segment was over.
Wow.
So she created an app that would allow her to do it herself from her phone, and it would go up on the screen during her little traffic
That's
report.
really cool.
Right. And so turns out lots of other people who are on-air talent for TV stations said, hey, how did that work? I want to use that. So she's actually quit her job at what she did for 15 years as a traffic reporter, and now this is what she does. She sells this app to other on-air talent at TV stations.
I like that story.
Yeah, so that's just one of so many, right? Brad Wyman is over here doing a thing about crowdfunding. He's done traditional movies for 20 years, but now he helps web TV producers get crowdfunding for whatever their project may be. So new media and traditional media are converging. That's the reason we're here.
Okay, awesome. So if you could give just one tip to the entrepreneurs out there who want to move forward using more new media, what would you say?
Just to get started. Okay. The first thing is do a Google search, whatever your business may be about. Again, if you're the bagel shop, Google best bagels in Las Vegas, right? And see what comes up. Almost guaranteed the first website you'll see will be a blog. And then go read that blog and and there's a reason why that's the number one thing you see. It's because blogs are updated with new content every day, and that's how Google ranks its search. The most relevant new content goes first. So once you start listening to what people are saying about you, about your competitors, about your industry, then you can develop a strategy on how you can go out and start creating your own content or start networking with people who are creating content.
Okay, and if they want to keep up with what NMX is doing, or maybe even go to the expo next year, where do they do that?
NMXlive.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at NMX. You can follow me on Twitter at BlogWorld. We've got a whole bunch of other Twitter channels, and we're on Facebook and all that stuff too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Heather.